our June 2025 meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Do we have any new members or new visitors that haven't been here before?
This one.
Would you mind just saying like where you're from, how you heard about us?
We're from the town of Rome, south of Wisconsin Rapids, and we're visiting my sister and me.
Nice. Well, thanks for bringing them. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mary Moore, I came to celebrate Marcy's
Aw,
special day.
nice, nice. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Anybody else new? No? Okay. All right. We are going to test out my new contact. I have one contact. Okay. Here's my president's report. I am very excited to see all of you here tonight. I'm writing this ahead of time, but I know the room is going to be full. We have been so blessed to have been together for this many years, 25. Can you believe it? If you would have asked me, or asked my 20-year-old self, where do you see yourself in 25 years? Would you guys or me, would we have thought we would have been here in 25 years? I certainly wouldn't have.
Glad we are.
I didn't even know what the Historical Society was all about when I signed up, so. I can honestly say I wouldn't have said I'd be here inside this barn, but my life has been so blessed in so many ways because of all of the friendships that have been formed along the way. You have watched me as a single chick downtown Allison Bay, hanging out in northern Door County, go through some heartache, go through some dating, get married, have a child, and all the other fun stuff that goes with life. I've also seen death of members. I've seen sickness of members. But we all have been able to see each other grow throughout the years, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you that has made this journey so fun. Jan, Cheryl, and Dave have outdone themselves, especially today, by making the barn, getting it all gussied up for tonight. They put a lot of work into the barn.
So did you.
And let's give them all a round of applause. When you walk in here and you see Cheryl with cords here and there and there, and look at, she has it all put together. Awesome. Just awesome. As I tell everyone on a regular basis, we have and always have had a working board. How many of you have looked at our recent newsletter? Any ideas on how many hours went into that? Any idea on how many hours go into our Facebook page? Any idea on how many hours go into creating the spaces for all of our artifacts? Any idea on how many hours it takes to take all the pictures of all the artifacts? Any idea on how many hours are spent on that lawnmower? And by the way, has anyone seen Dave's new toy?
Yes.
Yay!
We just invested in a new lawnmower. And Dave has a nice red lawnmower. And
Hey, look at Dave! Did you take it back to your house?
No, it's not. It's
Oh,
not
it's still in the
green.
garage, huh?
It's not green. Thanks to all of our board and so many volunteers that is so many of you that make all of this into the greatest view of all of Door County. Cheers to another 25. I just want to say, just a little ad lib here. It's been a long day for a couple of us, for a few of us. We started off our day, Cheryl and I were in Brussels this morning. This is the kickoff to History Week here in Door County. And Cheryl and I were down in Brussels representing northern Door County, and we had a great time down there. I walked in and I said, to be honest, this is the first time I've been in here. I mean, there are so many different places, the different historical societies up here that have just wonderful places to visit. I have never been there. It's great. They have a lot to offer. So if you get a chance, I encourage you to go down to Namur and go into the Belgian Heritage Center. Is that the correct word? It was great, absolutely great. So, anyway. All right, I was given this ticket. Who wants to buy the first raffle ticket of the season?
Number one.
Yes,
Number
number
one.
one.
You won it.
All right.
$5 right here.
All right. Okay, here's gonna be the first. I'll get the jam.
Yeah.
So we do have raffle tickets. Our raffle tickets are in, and we'll be selling them up until our tractor show. So anyway,
It's a winner. It's a winner.
it'll be a winner, I'm sure. All right. All right. Let me get my wood contact out again. It's working. I guess that's what happens when you get older. You try new things. Okay. You all know me. I tend to get a little emotional, and I told myself I wasn't going to. Jane and Larry Nelson. I want to first start by saying that I don't think the society would be what it is today if it weren't for Jane and Larry Nelson. And I truly mean that. Their drive and their dedication to this society early on helped shape where we are today. Jane was always coming up with creative visuals for the log museum and always had an eye for decor and placement of our artifacts. She was always the cheerful one to accept anything that somebody wanted to donate. And she brought in a lot of stuff from her own family and encouraged all of her distant family members to donate. I mean, Jane really, she outdid herself. And Larry, he never skipped a beat with pitching in on anything that was needed around here at the museum site. He spent many, many hours cutting grass, moving things around, and attending and participating, most importantly, in our board meetings, especially participating in our discussions. We started with nothing, and we have a lot of buildings up here now. We have a lot of artifacts up here, and it is because of Jane and Larry. We are truly blessed to be able to call these two wonderful people part of our organization, and I'm truly blessed to be able to call them my friends. And let me tell you, they're definitely fun people. I always used to joke around about us being a fun organization. We would have fun as a group, and people should join us and Larry and Jane so that we can all have fun together. I am honored to present the award this year to two passionate individuals that have given so much to this society. Jane and Larry, I have, if you want to come up.
No, I get it. But there's so many more that did so much.
So this is Liberty Grove Historical Society's Don Overby Volunteer Appreciation Award. This award is in grateful recognition and deep appreciation for the outstanding and dedicated service you have afforded the Liberty Grove Historical Society. Through your acts of service and gifts of time, talent, and treasure. Larry and Jane Weaver Nelson. A special visitor tonight. She was brought here by none other than Gail. Marcy Farber is with us tonight. And Marcy has also dedicated a lot of her life to this society. And we just have a little present for you. Should I leave them here or should I?
I just leave them there.
I'll leave them here. Marcy, these are for you.
Oh,
Those are gorgeous.
that's okay.
These are for you.
You don't have to go up there. I was just gonna leave it there.
And I'm gonna leave this here too, but this is also here for you too. This is for Marcy. Everybody should take a look at it before they leave. It was created by none other than Pat Creevy. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But wait till you see it, Marcy. It has a little, Pat outdid herself. It has all little touches of Marcy in the poster. So, thanks for joining us tonight. Fish boil Thursday. What I will tell you is because I was working all day, there were a few of you that have called today that I haven't called back yet because I haven't had a chance to because we've been working all day. But fish boil, our reservations were, our 4 o'clock is a little skimpy. Our 7 o'clock is about this, not quite the same, but our 5 and 6 are full. Like, it's supposed to, Dave promised good weather. But he clearly didn't watch the weather forecast because I finally looked at it today. That's all right. I didn't sleep last night, so it's okay. Anyway, our fish boil, if you still want to join us, we do still have some space available for this Thursday. Kirk Knudsen is going to be back at the helm and helping us outside. Once we're done with the meeting in here tonight, we'll gussy up the barn in a little bit different fashion, and we'll be serving everybody in here. And if we do have rain, well, then we'll be cozy. We just have to make sure that we usually set up for 50, and that's why we usually do have the 50, each time slot. So the 5 and 6 though are actually over that 50, but it's balanced out with to-go orders. So we're going to be just fine, just fine. I'm very excited. After talking to a couple of you tonight, I don't even think, I think we're good on volunteers. So, it's going to be a big night. It's one of our, it's our number two fundraiser. So, we got to make it good. Alrighty. Opening day? Is somebody gonna?
Friday
We're opening a Friday?
Friday event.
Oh, the Friday then. Oh, okay, that's, all right. I was going by the agenda. Friday, we have an event at, the Crest Pavilion. Cheryl, do you want to talk about it? No, okay.
Friday, we have an event at the Crest Pavilion.
Cheryl, the reason I was asking is because Cheryl she facilitated it, and it's going to be a great program. But go ahead, Jen.
It's with Trudy Jensen, who is an author, and this is in collaboration with the Egg Harbor Historical Society. Isn't that lovely that we're doing collaborations with other historical societies? But Trudy's going to be sharing some excerpts from his stories about fishermen and fisherwomen here in our county. And it would begin at 7 o'clock at the Crest Pavilion in Egg Harbor. We hope that you'll take that opportunity to join us at that time. Thanks.
Yeah, it's exciting to collaborate with them.
Well, this is all part of History Week again, and I think it's just wonderful because History Week has only been like 2 years now. Is this the 3rd? Or this is 4? Okay, well, more than that. But we haven't been able to do outreach and be a part of other events during History Week, so to speak. So you guys have you've been out there with outreach today. You're out there with outreach on Friday, and we're lucky the fish boil always falls in the History Week. So
we're
yeah.
lucky. Yeah, we're really lucky. I think out of all the historical societies, we have the most events this year. I mean, we have 4 events this year, so, but with that being said, I think Cheryl grabbed a stack of, the History Week. It was an insert in the Pulse, so if you didn't see it, we do have extra copies, cause there are a lot, it was actually a really nice, well-written piece, talking about different sites throughout the county, so, alrighty. Opening day is Saturday. Sorry, that's why I got confused. Opening day Saturday. Anybody want to make mention about Karen, Jan? Anybody want to talk about opening day?
We have, again, another collaboration, and this one is with GODC. They're going to be offering a special program here in the barn about the giftedness of our indigenous people, particularly with wild rice and tobacco. So if you're interested in that kind of relationship that we have in the county with our indigenous peoples, this is the place that you want to be on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Also know that we are open from 10 until 4 that day, and our historic buildings will be open, freshly cleaned and scrubbed, mind you, anticipating some wonderful patronage on our 25th anniversary season. So we look forward to seeing you on Saturday as well.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on this week.
1 p.m. is the program.
Thank you.
1 p.m. is the program, 1 p.m. with GODC. All right, 5, an Antique Tractor and Arts Festival, Saturday, 7/26 and 7/27.
No matter what she says, the weather's gonna be great. Weather's gonna be great this Thursday, but especially for the tractor show, so be sure you come either day or both days, 10 to 4 each day. We still need volunteers for that. We need volunteers in the food tent, ice cream, a couple things like that. Liz, raise your hand. Where's Liz? Liz is over there. If you haven't already signed up and you would love to help and be part of the group, see Liz. Karen, I don't know if you need those
I
things.
have 3 slots.
See me
It's a tough
first.
job. It's the job that you sit at the Liberty Grove Historical Society booth. You get to visit with everybody and get them excited about history. So it's a sit-down job. I need 3 more volunteers.
Cheryl, do you still need volunteers in beverages? Don't know, so we still need volunteers, so if you're interested, see Liz, see Cheryl, see Karen, thank you.
Liz, that was unfair. She said that was a sit-down job. You're a lot of fun to hang out with, so not that it's not fun at the booth.
Mine
but-
is more fun than hers.
I'll
I'll vouch for that, because I've done your jobs. They're fun too. But you gotta move. I don't need them this year, okay?
All right, sweet, great.
Sweet potatoes.
Okay, who would like to present the slate this year?
Can I do that if I'm one of them?
You can.
Tanner?
Yep, you can.
We're losing our vice president. Cheryl is gonna be off the board. There's other things to do. But the slate that we need to vote on, please, is for President Stephanie Burke, Treasurer Barb Zekin, Secretary me. We don't have to vote on any directors because none expire this year. So, I move that slate of officers.
I second.
Okay, any other discussion or nominations from the floor? Vice President? Vice President? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? All right.
One other thing I would say is that we have openings on the board if you're interested and want to help do what we do, make this place a great place, as Steph has talked about. See any of the board members, see Stephanie, and we can fill you in a little bit. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any other? No? Okay, okay. All right, so having our program tonight. I think the plan is, we have a lovely cake over there, we have some coffee, we have some wine. I did promise non-alcoholic wine too, so if anybody wants non-alcoholic wine, I brought that too. So I think when we transition getting our panel up here at the front, if you want a piece of cake or coffee, let's get it right now before we start our program. Is that okay?
Supposed to kiss the mic, I was told.
Yeah.
But it won't fit in it. Have to go get our wet wipes. Welcome, and tonight you've got a treat. You are the cast of the video you're about to watch. I think almost everybody in here is there in one way or not. You're not the dummy. We're never going to win an Oscar with this one, but it's going to tug your heart because we were there at different moments. And it's going to be repeated, so you guys will get to see it. Now, the joy of doing historical research is finding dated and labeled pictures. The first 20 years of our society was able to be in the video for 20 minutes. We did so many great, enthusiastic things in the last 5 years that I had to add 10 minutes for the 5 years. And I hope you'll enjoy the 25-year story of the Liberty Grove Historical Society. And there's Marcy, ahead of the game. The thing that happens when I get the mic, because I'm a retired teacher, is that you've got homework. I want you to go home and visit your photo collection, and also the papers that pile up in the corners. If you've got anything that has to do with the Liberty Grove Historical Society, any photos, we would love to put them in the collection. Carolyn and Don Payne are doing a wonderful job accessioning all the wonderful photos and artifacts that we have. The other thing is you're going to enjoy your youthful past as you see yourself on the screen. And I made a few boo-boos along the way. The nice thing about YouTube is I can edit it and I'll put the corrections on in the next week or so. So if you see something that is in error, please let me know and sit back and enjoy the show. The floor that we're sitting on, that was, they were just pouring it in that picture.
Oh, there's Don's head.
So what we're gonna do tonight is this'll stay.
It's getting better.
This will stay running behind us as we're, as the panel here, as we chat. We'll keep it running the whole time that we're here. But yeah, a lot of great photos, a lot of great memories. Oh, Karen. Are we going to keep the lights off the whole time?
You can see the screen better.
Okay, okay. All right, well then it's not putting the spotlight on the other ones that are sitting here.
That's okay.
Okay, so what usually happens is I'm always the one that talks, and you're not gonna hurt my feelings. I know you don't wanna hear me talking all the time. So tonight, you're not gonna hear me talking. Nancy asked if they were supposed to, prepare any research, or, there's no research for tonight. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to go, we can go right down the line, so we can start here with Jane. Just introduce, well, it's simple, it's gonna be very simple, but I'm not the one that's gonna talk tonight. You guys are. I may have been here the longest, but I'm not talking tonight, you guys are. So, you're gonna just say, like, who you are and where you grew up.
Okay, I'm Jane, are you hearing it? I get my loud teacher voice out. I'm Jane Nelson, was a wee bird, and I grew up in Gills Rock. Went to the candy store, many of you have been to the candy store, that's where I went to school, till 8th grade, and I went up to high school. Met the fellow down there at the end, and the rest is history. And you want me to tell how I got into the historical?
That was in the next question.
Oh,
So we'll-
okay, everybody knows who I am now? All right.
I'm gonna take this phone up to the corner.
I'm Nancy Kurtz, formerly Rooker, and if any of you were here way back when, you know that the Rookers had the Rooker store, and before that, the Hillside Hotel. And the Hillside Hotel, so my family goes way back. I've been coming up, because I didn't live up here, but my grandfather was born here along with his 5 siblings, at the hotel, by the way, at the Hillside Hotel. And then when they opened up the store, the family was getting a little older, so then they started scattering. And I've been coming up here since I was 2 years old. I met my great-grandmother just briefly at that time. And I love being here, and my husband Gary and I retired and came up here. My parents had retired and come up here before that. They bought the cottage from the family, and so here I am.
I think you guys can use, yeah, Don can use that, Don can use Donnie's. Oh, you did reach? Okay. Okay.
You can use 2, Don.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks.
I'm Don Overby. I was born here about 90 years ago in 1935. I grew up, excuse me, on the first farm north of Sister Bay, corner of Highway 42 and Wildwood Road. And then in 55 I went to Chicago and ended up spending about 40 years there and moved back here in 2000. Joined a society after I found out they made it Liberty Grove and not Gills Rock. And I was involved with it until December of 2019 when I had my stroke, and then I bowed out.
But you're still here.
Okay. I'm Larry Nelson, the husband of Jane, and I grew up in Sister Bay, on Old Stage Road, went to Wildwood, and then Gibraltar, and a little something that went in between. I worked in the swamp down for Cassie Grant in Raleigh's Bay.
What year did that?
Back in the 50s.
Oh,
So, doing posts and
I
telephone poles and things.
did that in the mid-50s.
So, maybe about 58 or so, I thought, well, I'd like to get married. And at the same time, I was working part-time for Lorene at the gas station, at the city service station in town. So I mentioned it to him, and I said, where could a guy get a ring for Jane? And he says, well, why don't you talk to Cassie Grant? You know, when I was doing posts for her. So he said, the next time he comes in for an oil change, he says, give him a talking to. So I talked to him, and he said, sure, pick out what you want. And he said, show me a picture and I can get it for you. So we did that, and then all of a sudden, comes back, well, what kind of a diamond would you like? And then he comes with a cigar box full of diamonds, and he lays them out on the counter. And he said, pick out what you want. So I did that. So anyway, it ends up, I bought Jane's diamond ring in the gas station.
That's true.
Great story.
That was my story.
Exactly.
See, didn't I tell you they're fun?
Didn't show you the diamond when you worked for us? We'd go in to get paid, need to have it spread out on the table.
How much did you get a post? The
5
beer.
cents a post.
5 cents a post.
So you had to work like the daylights and do 100 of them a day.
I'm Vonnie Callsen. My husband and I have lived in Ellison Bay for about 50, we built our house about 50 years ago. But we built our business in Egg Harbor, so I really don't know a whole lot about early years in Ellison Bay because I was working in Egg Harbor every day. But I'm here and I would not want to be anywhere else. I thank God every day that we live here. It's a wonderful place to be. The people are wonderful. Everything works out well. And our President Stephanie has done so much for this organization. But I have to tell you, back when we left Illinois after Dave graduated from college and bought a grocery store in Valders, Wisconsin, which is our wonderful Stephanie was a little girl. And she would come into that store and we would all just hold our breath. And she keeps telling me it wasn't me, it was her sister. But her husband and I have decided that yes, it was her. And she was a darling little thing then, and she is a darling girl now, but she's much better behaved. I don't know anything else.
See how they did the little ad-lib stories? That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so next item is your past. Okay, so we said who we were, and you gave a little bit about like growing, like a little bit of your past. But now I want you to embellish a little bit more. Like, what's a favorite memory? And for those of you that didn't grow up here in Ellison Bay, or didn't spend a lot of time in Ellison Bay, what's one of your favorite childhood memories that you can share with everybody? Like Jane or Larry, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a funny one.
I don't know. I have to think a little
Okay,
bit.
well, we don't have to go with the roll. Everybody has to take a turn.
Okay, well, we came up every summer for 2 weeks from Chicago area and stayed at the cottage, which is right behind the current Pioneer store. And when I was little, my aunt and uncle, Walter and Jen Ruckert, ran the store. And in the back, they had a warehouse. It was attached. If those of you who knew the store before it was destroyed, know that there was that white building attached to the back end. That was the warehouse. And in the warehouse, when I was a little girl, I thought this was really cool, was a gray cat. We called her the mother cat. And there were the barn cats. They were out in what was their old garage, where our garage sits now. And they were wild. And their job was to catch the mice. But the gray cat got to stay in the warehouse, and she caught the mice there. But every spring or early summer, she would have a litter of kittens. So my favorite thing in the whole world, and I had to be very good, and then I'd say, can I go see them now? And I'd get to go back and see these little kittens. Every single year, I came up for about, I don't want to say 10 years, but maybe 7 years, that cat had a litter when we got here, and I got to play with the kittens. And actually, we ended up taking 1 or 2 of them home over the time when I was little. The other thing I was going to say was, the other thing was that they had the ice house, as it was still functioning when I was young, and of course they cut the ice in the harbor or out on the water in the bay in the wintertime and stack it in layers of sawdust in the ice house. Now, if you see my property, I have a little square garden back on the left side of the garage as you're from the street looking back. And that little square garden, that was actually the rocks that are there were the foundation for the entrance to the ice house. There was an entrance, and then the ice house itself was up about, well, to me it seemed like 3 or 4 feet, but it was probably 2.5 to 3 feet. And then the ice was packed in there. It was always cool in the summer, so we'd come. But when I was old enough, like 6 maybe. They always had an Iceman. It was usually one of the young men in the area. I'm surprised, Don, you were an Iceman for one of those times. But, and the Iceman's job was to take the tongs and go into the ice house, pull out the ice, take it out, put it on the scale, chop it to the right weight, and then hose it off. And I got the job of hosing it off if I was really good and didn't get in the way. And I just thought that was so cool. And there were these young men who then lifted it into my uncle's truck, and they'd take it to the summer cottages because a lot of them didn't have electricity. So they had ice boxes in their houses. So those are really wonderful memories that I will never forget.
Well, I have a favorite and an unfavorite, so I'm gonna tell both of them. One is, since you mentioned about the ice, we had ice house down in Gills Rock also because my father was a commercial fisherman and needed ice in order to ship the fish. And we kids would love to play in there because it was very cool. Plus we had all that sawdust that kept the ice from melting. So that was one of my favorite kinds of things to do. The unfavorite was, I have to tell you a little bit about being in school. First grade, and we had 4 in our grade. We had 2 boys and a cousin and me. And it wasn't too long, and we had Mrs. Klinke, if you remember Klinke Garage, we had Mrs. Klinke as our teacher. And we weren't in school too long when Jimmy Boyd, most of you know Charlie Boyd with the smoked fish, this was his brother. And he was one of the 4. And he was going to be moving to Skokie, Illinois. Oh, the teacher didn't know what to do, my goodness sakes. Anyway, we have to catch him up faster because it's going to the city. Now, my cousin David has brought home all those Dick and Jane books, and I read the whole works. But I was on book yellow, and I had to stay on book yellow. Jimmy went ahead. Now, our homework, I shouldn't say homework, seat work type of thing, was we had all kinds of catalogs, magazines, and so on, and we had to cut out and represent Dick and Jane, and if we found a dog, it would be Spot and all of that kind of thing. Well, I was a little upset, as you know, and so when I did mine, I cut the heads right off. Put only the body on this. That's what I would. That was the most unfavored.
I really don't have any funny stories to tell. I grew up on the farm. My father died. I was 8 years old. The farm belonged to his mother, so my mother had to buy it or move out. And us kids did that work until we were about 18. So we didn't have a childhood like most kids did, I guess. So when they turned 18, that's when they headed to Chicago and to get a better job, and I figured I could get up here. I worked in construction, and then later on I went to work for a television company, maintenance. Worked there about 40 years, ended up being the superintendent of the factory of maintenance, and retired out of there in 99 and moved back here in 2000. So I don't really have any story to tell you or incident. So.
How about in your 20s?
Yeah.
How about in your 20s?
Well, I don't
I
want
heard
to.
Diane say
I
that.
don't want to go jail.
If we didn't say it had to be PG.
Hey, John, how about when you were 8 years old and you had to stand on a bushel or a box so you could harness the horses?
If you take a ride down the hill there by the ice cream factory.
Yeah,
We always
sledding
thought,
down there?
yeah. But that's a common thing then, slide down the hills in the wintertime.
Hill Road, had somebody down at the end of the road.
Yeah, when you get to the highway, you have a road guard there and no cars are coming, keep going down to the lake. That was sad
you about, when I met Jane. I had a cousin that was going with her cousin. And the cousin's dad didn't like that she was going with John all the time, so she wanted Jane to go along. So there was 3 of them. So John got tired of that and he decided to ask me to go along. Well, I was happy to go along because I would just like to get out of the house. So anyway, we'd go ice skating on Europe Lake. And that was the big thing. And when I think the first time I met Jane, she sat on one side of the car and I sat on the other. She wouldn't let me get on the other side.
There was no warning ahead that somebody was going to be along. I was very used to just the 3 of us.
She wasn't the friendliest date.
Exactly.
In fact, it took a couple times to warm up. Eventually. Yeah. The other thing that, what I kind of had a lot of fun with in grade school was playing sports when we played basketball and softball, and between all the different schools and that. That was a lot of fun to me. We had Lawrence Dobner as our coach, and I was a little overgrown at the time. The rest of the kids came up to below my shoulders. I think I was 6 foot already in 7th grade. So. Yeah. Anyway, those are some of the fun times that I had. Of course, they got better in high school.
According to all of that, I had a rather boring life. I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and Catholic school, and we were very, everything just went according to what it was supposed to. We didn't do anything. Then we did go on to high school, and fortunately that's where I met my husband, and we eloped right out of high school. And that was real popular with our parents. And Dave was in college, and we had 3 children by the time he graduated. And he graduated in June, and our oldest daughter started school in September. Those were real fun years. We ate a lot of hamburger and a lot of chicken. You could buy chicken then 3 pounds for $1 or something. But we had a wonderful life. We've loved Door County when we would come camping here, and we decided after having our grocery store in Valdez for 12 years or something that we were going to come up here. And our daughter and son-in-law were with us in the business, and we told them they could stay there and run the store. And they thought about it for about 5 seconds and said, no, we're going to Door County with you. So we came, and we have been very fortunate, very happy to be here. We have grandchildren, and we have 6 great-grandchildren here, and life is good. We don't really have any problems except for arthritis. And I guess that's not bad.
Okay, I think there were a couple that might have wanted to talk about their teenage years, their 20s, their 30s. Anybody have a story that they want to talk about before present time? See, I knew they'd raise their hands.
Yeah.
My 4 high school summers, I came up and worked in the store, in the goods store, and stayed with my aunt upstairs. And my family, my family was down in Chicago, so I was up here on my own, which I was really ready for. One summer when I was 16, my parents were up visiting, and I had made friends with 3 other gals who were summer kids up here, and we all decided we wanted to go to the drive-in movie. And that particular night, they were showing Psycho, the original Psycho. And so the 4 of us got into the car, and I picked them up, and one lived out on Door Bluff, another lived in Garrett Bay, and then one was at Norland, actually, just next to where Karen is. And so anyway, we all got in the car, we went down, of course it's light out, it's very nice. We get there and we're joking around as girls, you know, whatever girls did in those days. And then the movie starts. Well, raise your hand if you saw the original Psycho in a movie theater. Okay, so you know what happens, and I gotta tell you, I was driving, and that movie scared us all so much. We were just shivering in our shoes, and I had to take everybody home. So after the movie, of course, it's dark, and I had to drive, well, we talked about it on the way up, because who's going to go home first? And we decided that the gal who lived on Door Bluff should go home first. So we get up there, now we're talking, in those days, the roads were gravel and they were very narrow. So we get up there and we parked on the road. And her house is down the embankment toward the water. And so there were 4 of us, and we said, now who's going to, she didn't want to go down by herself. She wanted somebody to go down with her, which meant that somebody was going to have to come up by herself. Or 2 of them could go down with her, but then I'd be left in the car with the driver. I didn't want that. I know her cousin was one of the ones who was with us, so she said, okay, I'll go down. And she came back up. Then we had to take the cousin home in Garrett Bay. And again, she didn't have far to go, but it was dark. The roads were very narrow. They were gravel. They weren't like they are today. And so she went home. And then I had to take the last gal to her home. She couldn't just walk over from her cottage. So I drove her over to Norland, and then I came home. I put the car, we didn't have a garage at the time, just parked in the yard, and I raced into the house. Now, I just have to say that in our cottage, there is a very tiny bathroom. It's the only bathroom in the house. And there is a separation between the bathroom, it was a wall at the time, and the shower. The shower room was on the back porch. You open the back porch side door there, the door's still there, and in there was the shower room. It didn't connect to the bathroom. For the rest of that summer and summers to come, I did not want to be alone in the house when I had to go take a shower in that room. Scared to death. That's my story.
Well, you know, when you're dating somebody in high school, and maybe after high school too, some of you dated, you're breaking up every now and then. You have some little squabble of some sort that breaks you up. Okay. Well, it was very easy for him to get a date. He'd just go ask somebody. But I was known as his girlfriend. Now, you think anybody came and asked me out? Forget it. So I went to KK Rogers. She was dating somebody from Green Bay. Was it Green Bay, Larry? Ralph, yeah. And I said, Kate, you got somebody that would be a friend that you could bring up so I could go out with somebody else? Sure. Okay. So we got picked up, I don't remember exactly, but we headed for, where are all the sand dunes? Whitefish Bay. All right, he took out a book. I was with this fellow. He took out a book, he sat me down in the sand, and he read poetry to me. Now, do you really think I'm the kind of person that would enjoy dating a person that sat and read poetry to him? No. I went back to him, we made up.
Tell us about you, Stef.
No, there's no talking about me today. No, not me. You guys tonight. I'm crying here. I'm laughing. Is there a story, refresh my memory, isn't there a story about a clock at Gus Klinke's? Wasn't that Larry's story?
Oh, yes, that's Larry's story. Larry, tell about the clock.
I remember it, every time.
Well, he was not an on-time person. Still isn't. I wait for him. Most houses wait for the woman, not in our house.
I'd always have to watch Jackie Gleason before. And then whenever I had that clock in my head, and I remember seeing that clock, and then I'd have to really give her a run to Gilstrap Corner.
The clocks that are in the corner over the stove.
Yeah, it was, but I don't remember what the,
In the garage or the house?
In the garage.
it was over the door, it was over the door in the garage. There was a clock, so you could always tell
If he was late
if you
or
were
not.
running late, not on time, if you were running late,
Okay.
like the DJ. So, anyway,
All right, what about,
I can't finish the story because I'm really,
it's okay,
It's
I
all
remember
fun.
the card on the box story. How about, midlife, so midlife stories for any one of you? Like when you're having kids, or, Don, I knew, didn't Don have cars? Don had,
What?
didn't Don have cars, what?
Oh, he always had
Oh, he always had cars, I knew that, yeah. How about like midlife, any stories from midlife? Like when you had kids, after the kids went out of the house?
Well, I was up here an awful lot because, our kids were in college and working up here. And then Larry was still working down there, and I was a school teacher, so I was off in the summertime, so I was up here handling 2 teenagers. And, he would come up weekends and so on. I don't know if any other, trying to think, if there's any other, nothing really funny. It was really serious type of stuff with teenagers.
let's not dig up.
I really don't have anything either. We love coming up, and, because we live in California, we didn't get to come that often when our kids were growing up, but we made it every 2 or 3 years. My parents owned the cottage at the time, and, we'd stay, and it was overflowing. I mean, 1 bathroom, I mean, that's all those people, but we made it work.
Larry, Don, Bonnie?
When we bought our property up here, we had an old barn on the property, and we bought it from Lee Rogers, and Jane Rogers, you may know them, they were here forever, they were both there. And, the old barn was a home for the pickers. The property that we bought had been a cherry orchard. And so they lived in this barn and had their names and dates and everything were written on the wood in the barn. And there were just cots. And that's where we slept in sleeping bags on those cots, and every once in a while the mouse would run across it. But then we got a brainy idea that we needed a bathroom in this old barn. We put a bathroom and a kitchen into this barn that was nearly ready to keel over at that point. But we put, and we decided when we built our house, we were gonna build it up the hill. So we put the water and everything, electric, up the hill, and then cords going down into this barn, and we had a wonderful kitchen and a wonderful bathroom in that barn. And our kids liked it until the girls got a little older and needed to have their hair dryers and their hair curlers and their hair everything. And we didn't even have a mirror in this place, which was probably a good thing. But it was amazing what you can get by with and enjoy. And we certainly did enjoy it. It was neat. But then we had to take the barn down. And now it's a nice barn. It's still a barn, but our granddaughter and her family come and they live in Washington DC area. They come and they spend the summers here, and they live in the barn where there's 2 full bathrooms and a kitchen and 2 bedrooms. It's quite nice, and so it's good. It's interesting how your life changes. Your ideals and your ideas. And it's really a good thing to have a place like this where you can be whatever you want to be and everybody's with you. And like I said, we thank God every day that we live here.
One more thing, I remember right out of high school, Kenny Islander up here had a milk route, and I'd fill in for him every once in a while. So to go and pick up, it was all cans from the small farms. There were small farms all along here, from Gills Rock all the way up on south of Sister Bay a ways. And but you get in there and they go, farmers, they like to always shoot the breeze, you know, you get in and try and get going, so you get the route done, but all of a sudden, as soon as you pull in the yard, they'd be out there and want to talk and talk and talk. And anyway, one time I remember it was a snowstorm, and I was bucking drifts going into each of those milk houses. And I got up to Sister Bay in Dahlstrom. He had quite a ways from the road into the barn. I remember bucking some drifts, and finally I got turned around in there and I was going to back up to the milk house, and there was drifts and stuff. So the two, the farmer and his son were standing there, and they said, "We'll guide you." But he said, "Keep her going." And then he all of a sudden he says, "Turn her sharp over." I turned her sharp over, and I hit the milk house. Put a big hole in the milk house. But anyhow, that was part of my growing up.
So I have a 16-year-old daughter. What were the different types of cars that you guys had? Like when you were younger, into, you know, like your teenage years, into adulthood, what were different cars that you drove?
My first one was a 49 Chevy. I think I was, as soon as I turned 16, Wally Mickelson was the Ford salesman in Sister Bay, and then he brought it up to the house and showed it to me. And I bought that, I don't know, it was maybe $200 or somewhere in that neighborhood. And then in 55 or 56, I got a 53 Ford hardtop, and then that's what I had until we got married. So I had those two cars. And what about you, Don?
I have a different car about every year. I started out with a 38 Chevy, bought it out of a junkyard, bought a 39 from a friend, took the engine out, put in that 38 and drove it for a couple of years. Paid more for the insurance a year than I did for the car. Next one is a 39 Buick convertible, and that right now is sitting up on the farm. Been there for 60 some years. We were digging it out the other day trying to see whether the jumper could come in and pick it up or not. But we drove a lot of old cars until I've been in Illinois a few years and finally got out of the Army. I bought my first new car, 60 Chevy. Then I went out to 63 Thunderbird, messed with the Pontiacs. And
I remember that 49 Ford truck you always drove, wasn't it?
yeah. For home series.
Right. And fun.
Yeah, well, it wasn't supposed to be that way. We didn't talk about that. Anyway, yeah, I went through a lot of cars, probably 15, 20 cars in my lifetime. A lot of them used cars. The last 2 or 3 I bought new. The one I got now is 2015, but it might be my last one. Since I had my stroke, I don't drive
I worked at the Shoreline Restaurant, because I worked my way through college. And I would take that for there, but it wouldn't start half the time. But no, I went down to Milwaukee, we weren't married yet. I went down to Milwaukee area to work, no car. And so I thought, well, that'll be no problem, I'll just find a place where I can get a bus. But they put me way out by Highway 100 at that time. There was no buses going out there. So I thought, now what do I do? My mother was with me, and she offered to help out with buying a car. Oh, no. And so I went in to the principal, and I said, do you have a list of the teachers and where they live? And he said, yes. And so I started to look to where I was living in an apartment, and I looked on a map and figured out who would be close by that I could call, didn't know them, call, and see if I could get a ride. And so that's how I went to the city without a car. I tell that to my grandson all the time.
I didn't have a car either, girls didn't have cars much in those days. But when I came up here, I found people who did have cars, young people who could drive around. But I also rode my bike. My parents shipped my bike, or brought my bike up from Chicago. And I used to ride everywhere with friends. And the one that I remember the most is, and I think about it now, and I think I can't get up those hills anymore, but that's all I could do to go to the post office and back on my bike. But we rode the bikes from the Pioneer store and then Rookert's store to the Washington Island Ferry, took the ferry across with the bikes, and then rode all around the island and came back. And when we got back, it was beginning to get pretty dark, and it was like mid-afternoon, and you know what happens, like it must have been August. What happens in August and mid-afternoon when it's getting dark, it means there's a thunderstorm coming. And so we really rode as fast as we could. And if you recall, from between the ferry and here, there are at least 2 huge dips, and then an up and then a dip again. And it's the only time in my life I was riding a bike so fast that I felt it wobble. And I thought, well, I've got to get back there before the rain hits, and we did make it.
I want to change the subject just a little. I don't know if many of you remember Boys Supper Club, which is now Big River Basin. Back then, and I'm not sure what the name of it was, but Red Dog.
Clayton's?
Red Dog, was that Clayton's? When Red Dog owned
Red
it,
Dog was,
he was open in the winter, and evidently didn't have a chef or anything, but he had a little refrigerator, and he would have different kinds of steak in there. And you would go there and pick out your steak, and then they open fire there, and you'd fix your steak, and then there'd be ingredients to make a salad, and that was eating out in those days. And it was really neat. And of course, everybody in there you knew, because nobody else was going to drive up to York County in the winter.
what was his name? Gordy Sequist.
Who?
Gordy Sequist's son is Red Dog.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know about anything except Red Dog.
Well, there's a redhead.
No.
So does anybody have a question for the panel? Like, do you guys have a question you want them to answer?
How did you come to participate in the Liberty Grove Historical Society?
I can't remember how I knew there had been a meeting, but there was an initial meeting. Marilyn, help me out, Marcy, Gary, Farber, and was at the initial meeting.
The initial meeting was at the Banzap's house,
Okay.
in the yard.
Okay.
The first day.
No, not the first one.
weren't?
No.
I thought you
No, but then somebody told me about it. And maybe I knew Marilyn, did I know Marilyn at that time? Can't remember,
No.
but I got talking with her.
You knew
You knew Gary.
Gary, maybe that's where,
Because you and
okay.
Gary taught together.
Right, we had taught school together, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that's maybe, and so I think I was at the second meeting then.
Yeah.
And right, and then,
Because you said something to me about, well, if Gary's interested in, I think I am too, or
Yeah.
something like that.
right, right. But I wasn't a part of making like all the rules and all the different things. That was a committee before.
That was a mess.
Oh,
Oh my God, oh my God.
you don't know how
You have no
long
idea.
and how many days it took Gary and I to get rid of it,
Yeah,
what didn't sell. It was like, and then some of it ended up in garbage. It was not.
well, anyway, that's, so I know I wasn't at the very first meeting, but I think I was at the second one.
I think I joined in 2003, and I remember going to the clubhouse in the beach park, community park, in Ellison Bay, and attending a few of the meetings there. But we retired in 2007. I can tell you exactly how I got involved. This lady right here, she got me, she said, oh, you should come up and we're working in the log house and all this, and I did, and here I am. What can I say?
Good worker. Oh, and we should mention also, Norma Hammerberg just passed away, but she was a big, influence on getting things going. And then, Carol, Weber, Frank Carroll was another big influence that we formed a committee, and everybody must have gone through their house and decided, oh, we can donate this, because, but there would stand a box when we come up to have a committee meeting or do some work, there would be another box. Who's that from? Well, I don't know. Many boxes, we never found out who had put them there, and some of the things we put in storage, and some of the things we listed, but we didn't know who had donated them.
Where were you meeting?
At the log place.
Oh, you were, the log place was here.
Well, this is just a committee. This is just a committee that would meet.
Okay.
Yes. But Carol and Norma Hammerberg were big in doing I don't know how many cards Norma filled out. And Carol was so good in helping out too, to say, why don't we make a section of this here, and why don't we make another section down to organize it. She was a big help in that way.
And Stephanie, what was the name of the woman who started the Circle of Honor?
Oh.
Faith Murray.
Faith Murray.
So it was technically Linda Wilkinson,
Yeah.
but Faith Murray was involved.
Yeah.
Yep, Faith and Bob.
That was one of the best things.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our meetings.
Okay, so let's do Don, Larry, and Vonnie, and then I have one last question for everybody. So Don, how did you get involved in the Historical Society?
My background is I work in construction and factory maintenance my life, so I figured it was something I wanted to do was help rebuild all these buildings here. So that's why I got involved and then ended up getting on the board.
Who put you on the board? Gene Wills.
Oh,
Good job, Gene. He wanted to get off, remember he said he wanted to get off, but he had to have somebody to replace him?
coffee at Wagon Trail.
Yeah.
Guess what?
I guess he convinced me to join, so, but that's,
Stuff, in the very beginning, we held a lot of the meetings at the Ellison Bay Women's Club.
Yes, yes. Right.
That's where a lot of our meetings
Right.
are held, and a lot of our functions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Taste of Northern Doors started there.
Oh, and don't forget, we were at Doty Dobner's garage too. Weren't we gonna buy that? We were gonna buy that at one time.
Right.
I've got some pictures of my parents there at Doty Dobner's.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, until Russell got wind of it,
Yes, uh-huh.
and he wanted us here.
Here, right. I forgot about that.
Larry?
I believe it started when Russell encouraged me to get that farm-all tractor going. It was had an old crank. So I had a crank it to start it with a belly mower, and that's how we cut the grass in the beginning.
Wow.
So
We need to find pictures of that. Do we have any pictures of that?
Boy, jealous with his.
Yeah, Dave is living on high sign. You should have been cranking on that old farm wall. Nobody else could start it. Russ would always come up, Larry, come on up here. He says, you gotta start that tractor.
Well, I think that's the way Dave was with our last one. He didn't want anybody else.
And I
Because he knew how to.
think they gave it back, or Helen Knudsen bought it back because it was his grandfather's or something like that.
And Vonnie, how did you start?
I honestly don't know. I don't know how I got involved. Lon Kapitsky was a good friend, and I think somehow he must have, but I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Okay, does anybody have a last question for them? Otherwise, I have one last question that we're gonna end with. Anybody have anything?
Stephanie, how did you start?
Well, I was a waitress down at the Viking, and I hung out, I'm just gonna be honest, I hung out with the old people. They were more fun. I used to hang out with Jeannie Wills and Lee Peterson. And, like when I'd get done with work, they would meet me up at Husby's, and I hung out with the old farts. One day George Hoyt came into the Viking and said, hey, they're gonna start something here in town, and we think you'd have a lot of fun with us. We think that you should join it with us. And so I said, okay, what do I have to do? Well, I'm just gonna mark you down for vice president, and show up. I don't even remember the first, I think it was actually I remember going to Maryland's and just being so intimidated. I was the youngest, and I was like, what am I doing? But you know what, it's been fun. It's been a fun ride ever since. So I've loved it. So it was George Hoyt and Jeannie Wills and Lee Peterson, and the three of them. Okay, I just wanted to end with the future. So those of you up here, what do you envision for the future up here? Is there something that you'd like to see up here? Something that, James already?
Well, as you look around, this building has many displays and so on, and I think we need something in addition for some storage. We were lucky to be able to get into the house now. I suppose that helps somewhat there, but so that this could be just for these fish boils and for whatever. I don't know if that's in the future, but it I think would help a lot.
Well, coincidentally, the board was just talking last month, or this month, actually, about, we've talked for many years about the potential, and Larry, you would remember this, of building another pole barn sort of facility back behind us somewhere, and with a shed type on one side that covered, so you could put some equipment and whatnot under that, and the inside would be, I should let one of you guys talk about what it would be, I don't know what it would be. But anyway, we've outgrown this spot, and we do need something, and to be honest, we've pretty much accomplished most of what we wanna do. Lincoln Cottage is going to open Saturday, it won't be done, but it's very close, and the farmhouse is coming along. Wait till you see the work that's been done in there by certain members of this group, and we don't like to have their names mentioned, but anyway, so, I don't know, beyond that, how about you, Don?
We are in dire need of a storage building or facilities for other things besides this building here.
Larry, what do you envision up here for the future?
Same as what they were talking about. We just keep on waiting around, but the price keeps going up.
True.
Stephanie, you can ask the audience too, if they have.
So we just paid the mortgage. We just paid off the mortgage. Amen.
Amen.
And so now our project is a storage, and we have, Dave has written a couple of things. There are they called a storage building. So it would have to be a building with some of the stuff in that people could walk around and look at. And it's amazing how many people, when there's a vintage market out in the yard, how many people come in here and are looking at things. And there are tags on some of them, and they get all excited and think they're for sale. So people are really interested in this, and I think we could use a place where we could show off some things better. So that's our project.
Well, that's a consensus then. Anybody have anything to add? Anybody? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming tonight.
Yeah. One more thing we're doing.
Okay.
Someone in the back step.
You want the light? Yeah, I think that. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, panel. Oh, my goodness. Sorry. I don't need a microphone, but I might just sit here with you for just a sec. And that's okay. I have a couple of notes. I know you saw your 25th edition of the newsletter. I know it. But the middle section reminded me of what Karen put together with this slideshow. And it was this wonderful compilation of memories for you all, but for people who are new like me, it gave me an introduction to all of you and helped me to be a member of the legacy of this wonderful organization. When I moved up here 6 years ago, I thought, what's the best way to get to know my community? And that was to join this organization. And it was you who gave me my first membership card. I visited a vintage market, and this little lady told me about my house and how she used to walk to school in the path behind my house in that stone alleyway. And she said I walked from the Gills Rock down to Newport School. And I thought, well, this is where I need to belong. And so, yeah, so you gave me my membership card. It's her fault for all of that. But I was taken aback by all of those wonderful pictures and stories that go with them. Along with those pictures was Karen's wonderful timeline that she created of everything that has happened here in this organization from the get-go. So that two-page spread prompted both my interest in and sincere gratitude for the many who volunteered their efforts to launch, to maintain, and to grow the Liberty Grove Historical Society. And in revisiting those past newsletters in preparation for this document, oh wow, the hours. Revisiting the newsletters of the Liberty Grove Historical Society timeline created by Karen, I learned some very interesting things. I learned from Marilyn Banzaf in her 2000 Christmas letter to the membership the story of the organization's founding. Before putting together the 25th anniversary edition, Marcy Farber penned a lovely piece to help guide my efforts to bring the origin story to our membership and friends. She shared, the spark and spirit of the society began to develop when Jane Nelson and I got together to develop a museum committee to acquire and classify memorabilia from local families and businesses. And if the museum provided the spark and spirit, the arrival of historical buildings on our site brought them the soul. So well done, Marcy. Thank you. And now the 2007 newsletter, oh my goodness. This is just the list of fundraisers. You think we're busy? Listen to the 2007 group. I'm so sorry. The spring plant sale, Taste of Northern Door, annual fish boil at the Viking Grill, Old Ellison Bay Days bake sale, Arts and Crafts Fair, Antique Tractor Implement Show, t-shirt and sweatshirt sales, I'm not done yet, Liberty Grove book sales, puzzle sales, spaghetti dinner, and matching funds campaign. Well done. Well done. 2007, for heaven's sakes, people. And then, of course, the fish boil was the official start to Old Ellison Bay Days in June. Bringing the community, this was a quote that I found in there, and I don't remember who said it, but it said, bringing the community members and visitors together in a historic feast. So that was well said too. Now in 2012, the gal that I spend most of my winter with, Pat Keenan-Freed, oh, hun, offered her graphic design skills for the newsletter and our advertising. Thanks to Pat and also Laura at Innovative Printing, we are proud to continue delivering historic perspectives, museum acquisitions, and site features, as well as reviewing the coming season and events in our annual newsletter. Thank you, Pat, from the bottom of my heart and all of us. Jane said in the 2013 edition, girl, you are all over. You said there was an estimated 2,000 people who walked our grounds this past summer. Then you went on to say, we are elated to see how popular we are becoming. I thought that was cute. And she also wrote that this little organization's purpose and our collective efforts were to showcase the history of Liberty Grove. And I think we've done a nice job of doing that. All of you that did your presentation here today, and a few other special people. We've done a compilation of the newsletters that we have. So it starts with Marilyn's letter in 2000, and of course ends with the monster, 25 edition. So it's in there for a few of you, and we're going to pass those out to you. They're just down here if you want to grab one. And again, thank you to Pat for her design of the 25th anniversary logo, but also the original logo and this beautiful piece here. And again, thank you to Laura at Innovative. Bless her heart. Bless her heart.
And thank you, Jan, for all the work. When I got that newsletter, I read it from front to cover, this last one. I saved it. I still have it, because I can't seem to get the, dates and meetings straight after all this time.
It is a lot.
So, I look forward to, I need to, go back and, I think it'd be great to go back and read those. And great job, both you guys, preparing that. I had no idea. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? That's impressive. So, very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you can say goodnight.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, well, here's to another 25 years.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say, Stephanie. I just wanted to say one more thing. Because Jim is here, Pat's here, Cheryl's here, and there's many, many, many more people involved in the incredibly beautiful new sign that's out front. So, and I know Ron helped, you get it up and everything, Jim, and there were so many people involved. It truly is like a very statuesque, landscape, beautiful addition to the ground. So, that's impressive. All you guys are working on. Thank you, guys.
We are excused, yes, it's very beautiful. Take a look at it on your way out.